Hello there. Have we met before? If we haven't, my name is Ashley McHatton, and you get to watch the interview from the Play with Fire podcast. This is episode 8. And on today's episode, I get to interview the owners and creators of Voodoo Doughnut, Cat Daddy and Trace. They're going to share with you how they have created this magical unicorn of a business and then was able to open a second location, harness that lightning in a bottle, and then was able to scale that into now several locations across the country. And if you haven't tried Voodoo Doughnuts, my God, stop what you're doing, get a plane ticket to the nearest one and order the maple bacon, the voodoo doll, just any of them, all of them. Just order all of the donuts because they're delicious. And if you've tried them, then you know that you've been ruined for donuts forever because there's nothing quite like them. They have, from starting this crazy business, completely changed the donut industry as we know it. And they're going to share with you some really fun stories as well as some really great insights on how they were able to make this all happen. And I hope that you're able to deconstruct what they did and apply it to your life and your passion. So without me continuing to ramble, let's get into my interview with Cat Daddy and Trace. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Cat Daddy and Trace. It's so fun to have you on. You were just telling me before I hit record how you got stuck with the name Cat Daddy. Could you go back and tell our audience just a little bit about how that came to be?
Well, in Tunica, Mississippi, a long time ago, they finally allowed gambling, and there was a sheriff there that had a Cat Daddy moniker, and I cut out the article and showed it to this guy. Because I said, oh, yeah, as soon as gambling is legal in Mississippi, there will be corruption. And he just thought that name was cool, so he started throwing out Cat Daddy. And for 20 years now, I've been using that moniker as a wrestler, a wrestling announcer, game show host, and for 15 years now as one of the co-founders of Voodoo Doughnut.
And how did you two get into donuts? Because that was not your background. What made the two of you come together and say, yeah, donuts, those are the things that we're going to do next?
Cat Daddy and I used to hang out as young men would do and go to bars and talk about business and what we could do and maybe we should open a business. And we were always thinking about maybe a restaurant or a bar because that's kind of what we were used to. Mm-hmm. And at some point, we noticed that there weren't any donut shops ever in downtown Portland, not just 20 years ago, but hundreds of years ago. Donut shops in Portland, absolutely, but not in downtown Portland. And Cat Daddy and I were both very familiar with the downtown scene. Mm-hmm. And what about a donut shop? And we both have, I had a dream of a donut shop a long time ago, but it was more of like a party ha-ha. Cat Daddy had a dream of a voodoo barbecue coming from the South, and barbecue's more expensive. Buying meat, you've got more of a shelf life that you got to deal with. Meat's expensive. And donuts, we just said, why not donuts? And the next thing you know, we're meeting people who kind of could help our dream come true with the Armenian mob people, kind of. Had a bakery that then introduced us to people who sort of got us, just the wheels started to go. And then we went and learned how to make donuts at what we call Donut Camp down in California, where in about 3 days we learned how to make donuts. And then we brought those tools back to Portland and ta-da.
And how did you come up with the name? It sounds like it was referenced from the South. Is that where you're from?
Yeah, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and I moved up here. And I've always, since the Kool-Aid stand, I had a gimmick, had a shtick. I was always ready to open my crazy business all my life. And when I moved out here, I had the idea for Voodoo Barbecue. Because just a few months after I moved here, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for some barbecue. And there was nothing in Portland, Oregon at that time. And so that was kind of the dream I rolled around. And when we first shook hands to do something, that kind of popped back into my head and got my software machine out. And it just, the numbers didn't crunch right. And so we started looking for something else and luckily landed on donuts.
And then, so how did you come up with the logo? Because I've heard your story about why your connection to the voodoo religion to that. So explain that to a little bit, how the logo kind of fits that.
So yes, we are playing off the voodoo religion per se. We're not claiming to be giant or anything. But there are some symbolisms that we are using in the voodoo. And with the logo, it's simply the word voodoo donut. And then the Baron is inside the donut with the staff. And that is the Baron Samedi, who in the voodoo lore is the person who, when you die, you open your eyes on the other side and he greets you and points you to heaven or hell. And the rule is if you see the Baron during your life, and typically he's the one who leads the parade, he's very animated, he's the guy out with the staff. If you run into him, you're supposed to adorn him with sweets, so that when you do meet him on your second chance in life or afterlife, he'll go, oh, I remember you, and send you to the right way. So it's a pretty simple reference, but it's an honest reference and a genuine reference to a positive action.
And our friend Mike King is still a graphic designer fellow, and we went to him with, we want to do this. There was a couple of take it back to the drawing board, and eventually we landed on what we landed.
We knew exactly what we wanted. We wanted the name that way and the Baron, but he and I aren't artists, so we got the graphic designer to do it. And man, it is still the center of the brand. And just, practically iconic at this point.
And we love, voodoo has a lot of O's in it too, and they look like them.
And they absolutely do. And it's unforgettable. It's definitely, I shared with Sarah, who connected us, I've been to Portland just a few times, but you guys are a must stop. That was the original reason to even go to Oregon, to Portland, from California, was to stop by and try a voodoo donut. And so what has, from the very beginning, when you guys were starting out, was a lot of things by accident, like your line. Everybody talks about oh my gosh, you're going to wait in line for 2 hours or 4 hours or however long it takes to get a donut. I'm yes. Was that by accident that the line started, or was that intentional?
Our lobby was only 500 square feet, or 200 square feet, excuse me. The kitchen was 500 and the lobby was 200. So you could only fit 8 people in the lobby to begin with. So just because of that, we ended up having a line.
Yes, the legend of the line began when there were 15 or 20 people in line.
But there'd be 6, 7 people in line. But and we had to learn how to deal with that. And now we have at the flagship store 5 registers. It's crazy how we've gone from our one little cash register to 5 POS systems and trying to move that line along. I don't think anybody's waited in line for 4 hours. But
no, I think my first time was probably 2, and it was raining, so it wasn't so bad. I think my last time was probably an hour in the sun, but again, that's what we were there for. And it's, again, everybody talks about, your donuts are great. So that alone, is awesome, but it's the whole experience. And also you meet really cool people, and you're, like you said, downtown Portland. So you get a real taste of what the city is like, all at once.
Well, and the other part of that question of getting people to come there as a tourist draw, when we first had the idea, it was Portland's gonna love this. This is gonna be awesome. And got my software machine out again, and I'm figuring out how much it's gonna need. We're gonna need to make just to make this thing go. And in the back of my head, it's all right, Portland's easy. This is a no-brainer for Portland. We're gonna do just fine. But if we could just get those people that are visiting, that's free money. That's gravy. They are in town. If we can just get them to stop by and buy a donut and cup of coffee, that is a market that will become gravy. And that is where everything went nuts when we started landing on every Travel Channel show imaginable and all the other shows combined. It went from, dude, if we could just get a couple people coming in here, and then remember specifically when the guy came in 6 weeks after we opened with this roller bag, and he and I looked at each other yes,
he had just come from the airport, and he came to Voodoo Donut.
Yeah. So at that point, we figured we were on the right direction, and now, 15 years later, it's beyond anything we could have even imagined.
So did that happen organically, with just by people telling each other about it, or was it a combination of that plus you guys actually trying to show people that you were here and give them a reason to come in and stop off the I-5 or come in after they've landed?
Both. For the budget we had, which was nothing, he and I, between he's in bands and all around town, I was announcing, wrestling and game shows. If we had a microphone in our hand, we were talking donuts. And that, for he and I, is easy. And when they write the marketing books, they quote us and all this stuff and how hard it is to figure that out. he and I, that was easy. Running our mouths, getting attention was easy. It's the quality and the machine that was hard. The donut machine, the making the company work. That was hard. Running our mouths and being silly and getting the attention for he and I, that was easy.
We had a thing called Club Donut on Tuesdays. We had a bathroom, and there was probably a 4-foot space between the ceiling and the top of the bathroom, and we had bands on Club Donut, so you had to climb a ladder, and we had a 5-piece band up on this tiny little space that's the highest stage in the world. I mean, you're in this tiny little lobby looking up at a band playing on Tuesday nights, and so things like that got people to talk.
It could be a band, it could be the Boy in the Bubble doing a 1-act play. There was High School Inferno. There were armpit musicians.
I mean,
we had a Grammy. Who was the Grammy?
The guy from George Clinton.
George Clinton's band kind of did a deal, and that
Janet
was
Weiss had a
stuff.
drum solo, did a half-hour drum
One
solo.
hour.
One
whole hour
drum
of drums.
So we just had a lot, and so things like that. It was like he would come to this donut shop, and there would maybe something would be happening, and that sort of got people to talk about.
And again, was that just intentional because, Trace, of your love and background in music?
Absolutely. And again, having a shtick, having something to do, it was like, of course, let's have a band, why not? We have this space, let's make it happen. And that way it got, because again, our lobby was so small, you couldn't set up a band in the lobby because then there was no place for the people to come in. So we put them up on a stage, and you had to climb a ladder. And there was pretty wild stuff that we would do up there sometimes. And we don't do that anymore. The bathroom doesn't even exist anymore in the same capacity as it did, but it was at the time, number one, it was kind of fun for us too. It just broke up the monotony of time to make the donuts and just sell donuts. We had a band to deal with, and again, people would come in and see what's going on, and again, maybe they told somebody, and then we can't really, when Jay Leno told a joke on the Tonight Show, that was kind of, I still wonder to this day how many people heard us in Buffalo and Miami and Atlanta, because all of the morning jocks, the morning time folks, we would talk about stuff. They would call us on the East Coast, and we'd be up making donuts.
They would apologize. Sorry, we need to call you at 3 in the morning. Is that okay?
We're
like,
fine.
we're up all night. Doesn't matter. Call us.
We literally would talk. There was about 2 months there where almost every day we would have six of these. Cat Daddy take 3, I'd take 3. We would, had been working for 14 hours and then go home to try to get some sleep, but we'd have to give these interviews. And I would sit at a Mexican restaurant and eat really crappy Mexican food. Before I'd go to bed and get up to make the donuts the next day, but I'm talking to like Hal and Charlie or whatever. And I always wonder about how many people were driving in Atlanta or whatever that heard us, and maybe they were like, who the heck are these guys? And we lucked out in a way too, where the media, particularly the New York Times and also Asia, kind of fell in love with Portland at the same time. Portland kind of became this thing. It wasn't Seattle, it wasn't San Francisco. What about Portland? Mm-hmm. There was just a lot of Portland-centric press, that was coming from all around the world. And so I think a lot of those people in Asia or Atlanta would read about Portland in their papers and then a trip to Portland. And then that became, you got to go to Voodoo Dough. So,
well, and how fortuitous that he and I invented a business that naturally we knew would thrive at word of mouth advertising. And word of mouth advertising is now
the thing.
It's Instagram,
Yeah, I mean, that's
instead of you going to a party and having drinks, like, dude, I went to this place. Now you are at, you're a minute after you leave there, you are, clickety. So how we landed that and then just seamlessly moved into the social media era couldn't have been more better timing, or what we sometimes call is just the good mojo of how we made it happen.
Do you, looking back, like, if you could go back, would you still do those interviews with people, do you think? Like, do you think that even though you couldn't necessarily measure it, do you still think that that was an important part of your success?
Yeah, free for whatever. Yeah, we understood that anytime that we stopped and talked to a reporter, we were getting anywhere from hundreds to thousands to, and in the case of being on Wheel of Fortune, millions and millions and millions of dollars of free advertising. So the phone rings. I mean, hey, we're here now.
And we've been
Thank you.
because we are marketing, because you're going to tell some people and hopefully have a big audience, and they'll hopefully, maybe if they have or haven't, they'll come buy some.
Yeah. And again, like, how important is, because I've heard, while I've been waiting in the line, some people say like, oh, they're not the best in town, or, oh, there's these other donut places. To me, I don't care about that, because I'm also getting more than just, again, a donut from you guys. I'm getting an experience. I'm getting to be part of it. But all that being said, like I was talking about, my Instagram stories before we came on today. I'm like, you can literally, like, I don't know how much sugar you use in that frosting, but like I can feel my teeth aching just thinking about it. Like, but it still tastes so good. Like your classic ones, like the maple bacon one and the voodoo doll. And like, so how important is it to you just to have a good product? Because having the shtick and the music and all that stuff definitely adds to it. But how important has just quality been to your business?
Huge.
Quality is huge, yeah. That's what in the beginning, I'm drilling into Trace's head. Is like, you and I, this is the easy part. This, you and I getting people coming in. It's getting them to come back. Getting somebody in the door, easy. Second trip back, there's where the quality of the donut is 100% the reason. People will come in and try it and go, okay, I saw the two goons doing their silly stick.
Blah, blah.
Yeah, but then having the right product. And you referring to all the other places you can go. For 20 years before we opened, there was not a new donut shop in Portland, Oregon. Since we've opened, there probably are 20 new donut shops. And great, it's cool. We're happy with that.
Awareness.
Don't open up a donut shop and call it Ludo Donuts and do Oreo and bacon donuts, because that's just dumb and unimaginative. But do something unique and fine. That's great. There's plenty of room in the donut universe. But on the other hand, we have a 15-year head start.
Well, and there's something to be said for that too. So with 15 years, like, how have you not gotten bored making donuts all the time? And is it because you're out of it and you're working on your art now as the business of it? Like, how do you still want to make donuts and work together after 15 years?
Like I've said to everyone since the beginning, and it doesn't necessarily work that way, but for Trace and I since the beginning, every 6 months our job's different. And we've been, with the growth, every 6 months our jobs are different. And we haven't made donuts in forever. Long time. We finally, well, the real thing probably is we aged ourselves out of the kitchen.
It's a young person's game.
It's a young person's game, and we got in the way in the kitchen. Kind of like I said, when the press calls, boom, we're there because we know that it's going to make us money. But when that happened while we were working, every minute we were on the phone was 2 minutes the kitchen was getting behind. So we had to evolve into executives, which was the plan. As soon as I go on, that was the plan all along. But doing that, handing over the precious art of making donuts to someone, oh, I'm the king of donuts. I'm the guy who makes the good donuts. And letting other people do it, really hard to get away from that, to put the trust in your employees to make the thing that you want. But as we did that, then there was something else to conquer, and then there were new locations, and then there were branding ideas. And so we've been lucky enough to have the stimulation of different work. If we were still rolling donuts, he would have hit me with a rolling pin, and I'd have probably swept his legs 3 or 4 times at this point. But because we have the variety and growth in our career and job, it's been good, and now we're at the point where there are 300 people working here, and we have an aggressive expansion plan. And we got to the point of, we're not just having to worry about people making the donuts. We have now hired a CEO who's smarter than us and expanding a company. And we're letting him kind of do his job now and make this thing grow, because we don't ever think there should be 300 to 500 of these things. But, why shouldn't there be, 40 or 50? There's no reason that there shouldn't be, a few, 40 or 50 in the United States. That would be kind of cool.
It would be. So, like, with how unique your flagship store was, and how do you scale something like that? Because from the outside looking in, it would seem like you can't repeat that. But from what I can tell, like looking online and following you, like, they all are very distinctly Voodoo Donuts, and they all, like, even some of the staff and employees, like, they all look like you would expect going into the downtown Portland store. So how have you scaled something that seems so much like a magical unicorn, so unique?
Well, let me take one part of it at least. There's no way we could replicate Voodoo One.
Yeah,
No, it is just like you said, it's a unicorn. We can't do that. We base the company off other stores. It is so unique that it cannot be genuinely replicated. Maybe Orlando Universal store does, get close, but as far as like a shining star, we can't do that. So we base our company on like the second store in Portland and one of the stores in Denver, which when you look at the books, still blow people's minds. If we showed the people the books for one and said, this is our company, people would, they'd be cleaning out their pants. But that's unrealistic to think that we could create such a crazy thing like that. So basing it on our good producing stores, that's how we form our model.
And then how have you carried the brand in and infused that, again, that same feel, or at least as close as you can? Like, how have you intentionally done that in each store? Is it based on the market that you're going into? Because Colorado people are different than Portland people, different than Orlando people. So how have you still stayed true to the brand that you've built, but made it to where your audience that you're serving, it's a fit for?
A lot of it is the product, which is the same product that you can get in each store. So you're going to get the same donut everywhere. And then it's definitely a challenge, and we're learning how to do it as we're going along still, but it's getting a little better. We're getting better at it. And it's a challenge to also work with that market that you're in. And so it's, we're not in Portland, we're in Denver, and we're in Texas, or wherever we're going to be. And learning how to kind of get into that, environment, and, learning what's going on in Denver. Denver's more health conscious, or Denver's, there's people that come there in the winter because they go skiing. So like being aware of kind of what's going on in those different markets and working on that under the umbrella of this kind of wacky rock and roll donut shop, and, keeping it cleaned up around the edges a little bit as we're growing. And again, trying to, as I say, try to, work with each market. And for us, that, I don't know anything about Austin, Texas before we went to Austin, Texas. So it is challenging to think that it's hard to kind of be part of the community when you are an outsider. We are outsiders. We're from Portland. It's a Portland brand, but as we're going, it's not just a Portland brand anymore. It's a donut brand that's going to continue to keep moving along. And at some point, it might not just be a Portland-centric thing. It'll be more just a Voodoo donut-centric thing.
And talking about, you guys mentioned in the beginning, like just that early struggle that you guys had of growing your business, and it wasn't the getting the people in the door part that was the hard part, where for a lot of businesses, I think, have the opposite problem. Like they're just trying to find customers and how to get them in, where you're like, I got that. Like how did you find your way and navigate through the obstacles of the machine, like you called it, of the business and the slinging of the donuts?
Yeah, well, just like you said, we were smart enough from the very beginning to know just how lucky we are, is that all of our problems was there's more and more and more and more business. And you can't, there's how lucky can you be? And this is a fairly easy thing, but complicated too. But the fact that our problem was we had to learn how to tamper business, very much a luxury, still exhausting, still an incredible mountain to challenge, because you're not figuring out desperately how to get in a gorilla suit and draw people into the place. You are now into the logistics of math of, all right, we've got 10,000 donuts and 40 places they got to be delivered to today on top of our regular business. And so that was a tremendous challenge. And luckily enough, as we got to that point, we picked, we had those people along the way that showed up at the right time. And our CEO at the time, not at the time, but as he was growing through our business, was just this computer guy who was like, oh, I can write that algorithm. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then like he comes back in the next day, and boom, he wrote an algorithm that would take those 10,000 donuts, divide them into the 40 units, divide them into the 100 donuts that we make, and not only put the sheets out for the orders, but also print out the recipes for the amount of donuts we needed to make. Which for he and I,
you're like, oh my goodness, like
Mr. Flip Phone over here, and me with my paper and pencil and calculator, figuring it out, we could make it happen. But bringing in smart enough people along the way, and that's what we tried to do, and everyone tries to do. Hopefully you try to be smart, but you need those people that are smarter you in certain areas along the way to help boost you up and turn it into this giant 300 person company.
And be able to recognize that, be able to say, I don't know how to do this anymore. Let somebody else, take it and run with it. And that's kind of where we got to after our 5 stores. It's complicated to be in 3 different states and license deals and taxes and payroll and and we kind of recognized we were a little over our skis and kind of let's bring in some people who have experience doing that, and being able to recognize that, I think, is super important to the whole business. Something that business people should take away from that you might not be the smartest guy in the room at all times, and to recognize that, and that's okay. Everybody's got their strengths, and it's interesting. It's definitely we've really been lucky again that we just have to answer the phone. A lot of people out there are trying to drum this kind of stuff up.
How much do people pay to be on the local morning show? So show off their new product or whatever. We will do the morning show, but that's because they call us and we're back on the morning show.
And a lot of it's just because we've done. It goes back to, you don't need press if you can create it yourself. It's you just have to have something that people want to talk about, come to, write about. And we were fortunate enough to have a donut shop.
Well, and you say this one all the time. The old, when you desperately need press, you can't afford it. And when you can afford it, you don't need it.
Right. That's true.
So true.
So how have you, you guys both mentioned, as you were recognizing and needing smarter people in the room to help you grow your business, that struggle with letting and turning over the reins, what was the tipping point for you? Was it that you just couldn't do it anymore? Or was it some people like that CEO that you mentioned, where he just was let me show you, I know you're not listening to me, but let me just do it and show you what it could be? Was it a combination? How did you finally
a little bit of
comfortable to turn it over?
For the guy who wrote the algorithm, he was just the guy who was always there. He's yeah, I could do that. I could do that. So show us. Oh, you can't do that. And not that we're skeptics too, because it's our baby. There's this baby that we've had now that's 16 years old, but our baby's now in high school, so we need to know that our kid can leave the house on their own.
Driver's license.
I'm not a tracking app, so I know where the kid is, but I need to know that the kid can go out in the world, and we're trying to work that kid up for the next step, which is going to be college, where we're not going to hear from this kid for weeks at a time, and it's going to go out and hopefully develop itself into a mature business, and going out, and as silly as it is. And it's a sugar company. Yeah, we're peddling sugar and all that, but I see it as we're a company that's trying to hand out smiles. It's like flowers. When people walk in the room with a bouquet of flowers, everyone's happy, not just the person who's getting the flowers. They're happy for the person. Oh, there's flowers, there are flowers. And the same thing happens when you bring that new donut box. It's a story. Oh, God, you got to do it. Oh, I remember I was there that time and there was a wedding. Oh, I remember the time they did the world's largest box of donuts. And that is okay. If people leave with a smile, and as I always say too, moderation is the key to the magic in the home. I'm never going to sit here and own a donut company and act like McDonald's and go, well, you could probably come in here 5 times a week, No, come in every now and then, have a treat. Moderation is the key.
I think that's great. And as you have grown and your roles have changed, what was the decision to finally scale, to open up multiple locations outside of Portland? Because a lot of companies grow too fast. And like you said, that was one of your, you had too many customers and that could have toppled things over. But then you finally were okay, we're gonna have 2 locations. And then what was the decision to let's make this a bigger brand?
The way that we did it from the very beginning, we had our 1 location and we said, okay, now we we can't put 50 pounds in a 20-pound bag anymore. We need another space. We had so many donuts going out of 750 square feet. So we opened a second location 1.4 miles away from the first location. So managing 2 locations, but they were in the same town a mile apart. Then we said, hey, if we can do that, let's go to Eugene, Oregon. So Eugene, Oregon, we could get in a car. It's only 2 hours away. We did that. Then we're like, let's go to another state. So we went to Denver. And there was some talk about going to Austin first and things, but Denver really rolled out the carpet for us. It's a direct flight. You go to Denver. From Denver, then we would go to Austin. So that's kind of how we did that. And our big heads, we thought we could open like a shop a year. And after Austin, it just about killed us.
After Austin, when we decided we could do a shop a year, we opened 2 in 5 years.
Right.
And it was, and us at part of that learning and your job being different every 6 months, he and I are not multi-state business developers. And so we were trying to figure this out by the skin of our teeth.
And we're promising people who had been with us a long time opportunity, which we knew was coming, but it wasn't coming maybe fast enough that we were promising. And so we kind of we also knew that we kind of had a unicorn. We trapped lightning in a bottle. We have this brand. We have Kleenex of donuts or whatever you want to call it. It's there. It's right there. It's like pick it off the tree. And so, we looked at each other and it's like, why not talk to some people and see if we can
and they,
get some other people.
For a month, as soon as we got that first buzz, they were begging. People were always begging. We were fighting them off with sticks the entire time.
We had stacks of people who wanted to franchise and buy us as high as we are. Madagascar is still the weirdest one. Somebody a long time ago wanted to know if we wanted to open a donut shop in Madagascar. And it was like, yes, but no.
I was like, yeah.
Difficulty there, but it was crazy. And so we just kind of, we looked at each other and we've made promises to employees about growth. I mean, it's just, you kind of have to keep moving. You have to kind of keep growing or you're going to get stagnant. And if we were just going to have one donut shop, 16 years ago, we would have been fine. We would have been working and been fine and raised a family and done that. But now we have this opportunity. Not a lot of people get that opportunity. We're very fortunate. And why not see where it goes? So that's kind of what happens.
Is that your vision and approach, is just be open and see where it goes, or do you guys have a very clear hope and dream of where you want to take it to?
I'd like to keep it a little closer to special ones and special places. And I think everybody involved is just like, no, we don't need 500 of these things.
Yeah.
So, and I think that makes economic and business sense too. Have something that people really want to go to. If you have 5 of them, all the people who are going to go to that place have now been divided into 5 units, and you're paying 4 units too much. So I still like the Hard Rock Cafe, but on the other end, the spoke and wheel model that we're going to try in Texas, where you have a few units there, is beneficial because number one, you have an area to manage. You don't fly from city to city just for one store. And they have a support network. They've got people, oh my God, I'm out of chocolate. Go to store that's only 20 miles away or, 10 miles away in the city,
2 hours
rather than just going, all right, I'm on a lonely island out in the middle of nowhere in this company. So what do I do? But not having 400 of them. So, but let's see, we are still on our high school adventure, I guess we would call this. We've got 1 unit open. So it's not like we're got 10 being developed and 3 opening in the next month, but that's the plan. We are right now ready. We have a lease in Houston. We're supposed to open before the end of the year. We will open another store in Portland in Q1 of next year. And we are working on more stores in Houston, and then also looking at those golden opportunities in big cities around the states right now.
Is there a certain state or city that you really want to be at? That you dream, like a dream location?
It's tough. There's so many out there now, and I probably should keep our mouths out. We don't want to.
Well, I mean, I know you want to be everywhere, and all of them, they're all special. But is there the old watch of locations?
Yeah.
I think I can throw out is I've always dreamed of the wedding chapel / donut shop in Las Vegas. I think that because of our wedding business, that it could be the busiest store in the company just from the wedding income. If we had and the idea is like a commissary wedding chapel with a commissary kitchens going out of business, we can go in and put a commercial value of donuts in there.
That could be great.
That would be a taller unicorn.
And some places have a roller coaster.
Yeah, so that was like number 4. We're gonna have a roller coaster. We're gonna do it in Hood River, Oregon, just outside of town, and we're gonna put a roller coaster at the shop. So
I like it. I'm like, yes, can we make that happen? I was like, I'll go get married again. I'll just to make that happen again.
200 shops in order to talk to people into a roller coaster at this point.
How do you guys come up with your ideas? Like originally, from what I've seen in past interviews, like some of like your bacon makeup bowl was like out of exhaustion, like you said. Like it was just like you guys were just working, living, breathing, being in the kitchen all the time. But how have you like? And I went there again recently, and you had like these temporary flavors that come and go. Like how do you come up with them? Is that even something that you guys touch, or is it a staff decision? How do you stay inspired and come up with these ideas?
What's up?
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's more organized.
It's more organized. Yeah, more organized. But yeah, it's more organized. We did have to drop. We had 100 different types of donuts at one point, so we've dropped some SKUs down because it's just so hard to replicate that while moving forward. It's easy to do in 1 or 2 or 3 shops, but be talking 10, 15, 20 shops. You can't have this one shop going rogue, making whatever, the maple something else, and having this other shop not do that. And so trying to get it down to the SKUs to where I think, what are we, around 57, 60 or something now?
Below 60.
Below 60, I think. And you know, we of course want to introduce new donuts and maybe take some back, you know, and then limited time offers, what you were saying too. Like sometimes different months we might bring an oldie but goodie back and try to create buzz that way. But you know, at the beginning, it was just pretty much he and I.
Dude, I brought some bacon to work. Let's play with it. And, you know, and now we have to
figure out
6 months ahead because we've got stores in multi-states that are going to need this weird little one flavored powder that we're going to use. So now it's much more thought out. Back then it was like, dude, let's try this out and see what happens. Which was, you know, like when 1, 2, 3 stores, that was easy to facilitate.
And it was fun. I mean, we were still building the business. That's kind of, we had to come up with ideas and flavors and combinations, and you know, it was part of it was sheer exhaustion. Some of it was just fun. You know, it's just like, why not squirt raspberry in that and put it in vanilla instead of chocolate or whatever, and that's kind of what we did. And that, you know, that's how the shop happened. And you know, when employees came up with ideas, and we, you know, some of them stuck, some of them didn't. Then we'd see if they sold. I mean, for a long time, we had absolutely no idea what our best seller was because we didn't have a way to track any of that. So we just assumed it was the bacon maple bar, but as it turns out it's the glazed donut or whatever. It actually sells.
Is it the glazed donut?
I think the bacon maple bar is still our big.
Bacon maple. Well, it depends on the shop. The Universal store, they've got a giant beauty ball out front, so that's the big one there. And
but we
and
do sell a lot of donuts.
Like you were saying, each city kind of has its different mentality and surges on the stuff they like, which is a challenge too, because we want to keep everybody happy. But yeah, it is neat to, you know, go from, well, I know we're out of bacon, so we need more bacon. Let's do more donuts, to now a computer. I could probably, if I was savvy enough, close the screen just a little bit and bring up the screen from the POS system and find out how many of those we sold in store 6 in the last hour. So those are the kind of the things that he and I, you know, we're the, I don't know, why do we try that, guys, that made it all happen. And what it's evolved into is a more sophisticated idea of, okay, that's a cool idea. Let's throw it into the formula and see if it works.
Has that been the biggest changes from where you started to where you're at now? Is before everything was more creative and didn't have that formula, and now things are more structured, and like if it fits, it goes. Like if it fits, it ships, kind of a thing. Like,
yeah, that's certainly one of the cogs of the entire thing. You know, I mean, it's also, you know, your kids on their own, and you want to tell them what to do, but you got to let them kind of do their thing. And sometimes, not so much now because it's more structured, but back there when we had to watch that kid, and where we and I are going, that kid's gonna fall off the curb. That kid's gonna fall off the curb. You know, and living through that, it's just, it is as scary as it was to make the commitment to go into a more structured company, the smarts of it, of like, oh, and that evil C word, corporate, but the good part of that is the logistics and the bargaining, the people that came in and took our contracts and went, look, you're buying millions and millions of dollars worth of donut product. Let's negotiate this and try and get a national contract. They did that, which was better for the company. They did the same thing for our health program for our employees. He and I were like, I think that's pretty good. But our person that came in has dealt with several programs and knew that we had much more buying power than he and I did, and negotiated to get better contract. Yes, we're saving money, but we also got a much better insurance program for our employees. So that's what he and I are fighting for, is keeping the structure that we did, which was take care of our employees. And, and that actually led into today's type of economy, because now money means, I can't say means nothing, but everybody's paying, high wages for hourly work. Mm-hmm. It's more about those soft perks, the things you get to do at work, the little side parts of the job that make it worth working, that you need to attract people with nowadays, which back then it was just like, oh, we'll just pay $3 more than everybody else and we'll have plenty of people. Now with the low unemployment, we have to attract people in.
Has that been a huge struggle for you guys, is just attracting and finding the right people, or has that been an area where your mojo has been good too?
It was bad, but we focused. Yeah. But we focused on it. It's getting better. It's a hard economy, but driving toward that. I mean, part of our problem, and if you're digging in and looking at the money, is there's not donut makers out in the world. There's donut sellers. I can take anybody from Starbucks, a movie theater, or Gap and turn them into a donut seller. You work on a cash register, but making donuts, I don't want people from other donut companies, because they all show up and go, yeah, well, at my place, this is how we did it.
Right.
So we have to invest a lot of money into training someone to make donuts. And if you get them to the end of that 6 months, and a person can make donuts in 2 or 3 weeks, but to do everything, it really takes 6 months. To get to 5.5 months and you lose that employee, all that time, all that effort, and all that money is just down the drain. So we have been really focusing on intake and experience and training people properly. Because it's come a long way from his and I training of, we're too busy, here's your training, do it, don't mess up. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it. Stand behind us, see what we're doing. I don't have time to say anything, don't screw up. And now you get in and you have to sit down and go through the whole packet and get the whole thing, and then work your way through all the different little programs we've set up so that we can get you in. That hopefully makes a happier employee too, because he and I lament too, there were some people that got through the cracks that, man, they could have been superstars, but we fell down by not having a structure there that made it look like to keep going.
I think people is always the hardest part. And then also as being a leader, when you know that you're like, I just don't have the skills for that right person at this time, it's so hard to look back in retrospect and be like, oh, the one that got away.
Yeah, I've got 2 of them in my head right now, and I remember their look in their eyes too. It's just like, this shit show. I'm gonna move on, and it was, and they were right. They're absolutely right. We were struggling to keep going. We were at that point when there was so much more orders coming in than possible, and we weren't prepared to take care of a good employee at that point. So, and that's that's one of those things that when people ask me that question, what would I do different? Nothing, because you need to have those hard experiences. You need to go through those really crappy things that you still might regret, so that you can overcome and be wiser about the whole situation. And that's what landed us here today.
Yeah. And I'm not going to ask you that question, but the one that I do want to know is, from where you guys started to where you're at now, what's an old belief that you had that has changed over the years? Has it been about people, about business, about creativity? What's something that you used to believe really strong and then now has shifted to you're like, yeah, I was wrong, or it's changed?
God, that is a good question.
Thank you.
What was the beginning part of it?
What's an old belief that you have that is now changed?
Something that we were steadfast about.
Boy. I don't know. I mean, I can think of more just tiny little instances, but not something that's just,
Then share a tiny one. I mean, I think, growth is incremental.
Something like that, but it's like, this is going to sell a lot, and it didn't sell at all. I mean, something like that. I would believe that. But that's a good question.
We've stuck to a lot of it. I always said this is a donut shop.
Yeah.
And there's everybody's like, well, what about, you're not, I love that people like, you know how many donuts you're going to have to sell? You're going to have to sell sandwiches or something else. And I said, no, this is a donut shop. And I fell victim to it too at some point. Like, I don't know, maybe we need to do something. And then the phone would ring and we get a 50 dozen order. I'm like, hang up and go back to donuts. So I'm glad that that's still predominantly, that's almost 90% of the company still. I mean, we're trying to expand merch and beverage, but we don't need.
And they are just donuts. I mean, that's all we're selling.
But you're also underwear. Like, explain the swag to me too, because like you have like that's one of the things that I noticed the last time, which I think I've always noticed, but it just stuck out that much more. Where I was like, do they really expect people to Instagram their underwear? I hope not. I bet they would.
The funny thing, and it was just number one, it was funny. We just said because it was funny, but the second angle of it is we didn't want novelty underwear. We wanted stuff that people would actually wear, and we never did get around to the guys' boxer shorts with the magics in the hole in the back. We never got that far. People root for it, but we went like the donuts. We went a little crazy with that. We had over probably 100 SKUs of that at one point. And that's another all right, now let's look at the money. Okay, how many are in stock still? And so now we have refined it. We still wanted to kind of do the same thing with donuts. We were going to evaluate how they're doing. That we're going to try and get rid of what we got left, and then once that's done, we'll add something new. And so we've got a certain new design. Yeah, she's folding the new hoodies, which will come out today. Yeah, I think they're officially live today. They're the first kind of donut tone zip-up hoodie that we've ever done.
They're cool.
So they're neat.
Like
and merch was always kind of a fun thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's also much better because it doesn't have a shelf life like a donut. It's dead in 8 to 12 hours. A T-shirt can sit in a box and still get sold a couple months later. And the pink mug is the insanity one. It just kind of epiphany one day is like, yeah, I imagined a mug with a hole in it. So this isn't the one, but it's like, there's got to be a commercial one out there that just, God, come on. And boom, there it is. And then we really just kind of took our logo and all right, slap it on there. And now we can't keep them on the shelf. It's just absolutely insane. That's trial and error. That was one of those kooky things that we did thinking, that's kooky. That might do something.
Types of mugs before we hit on that one.
And then there's panties that we sell 3 a week, something like that. So, it'll ebb and flow. We got new key change. We have one new shirt design coming. We've got magnets and stuff, and that'll probably be the same thing. We'll kind of do hit and miss with that. And if it takes off, keep it on the shelves.
And what was the idea of adding that? Just because it was just one more thing that people could buy and while they're standing there in line, or?
First day, you'll get shirts.
Yeah,
you got any swag? You got anything? And when did we have shirts the day we opened? We had the logo on a shirt the day we opened, but we just bought it for us for working and for marketing and stuff. And of course, dude, how much you got one of those shirts? You got one of those shirts, and it was tough because the day we opened, we had $3,000 left to our name. It was do or die. If we couldn't have made it a month or two if we didn't take off, and so. It's tough to purchase merch. T-shirts are $8 to $10 a piece.
Yeah, it's a whole nother business.
Medium,
and I still got to buy a donut product, and so that was a struggle. That was one of the struggles one of those things we tried really hard at, but we're okay. But yeah, we didn't have the money. If we would have borrowed money for a merch program early on, we could have probably done much better at merch. But it was what we could do while we were growing. So we always had the simple black shirt with the logo.
Mhm.
They always had a black hoodie. That was one of the things, like, no matter what, we got to have those. And then we'd eke out these
Another
new
color.
little things, another color, a bumper sticker, postcards, buttons, stuff that we could sneak in there. And now, again, cool, that's a cool shirt. I don't know, let's try that. I don't know, let's try it in blue, see what happens. Now we have one solid company that we work with, and they come and pitch us, and we pitch with them, and we try to roll our ideas, and we have to plan. We should be planning for next summer right now, because that stuff should be in production by January. And back then it was like, I don't know,
Oh my God, it's May.
we're running out of shirts. We better order some more. And, oh, it's summer. No more hoodies. Don't order any more hoodies. It's summertime. Make that. Yeah. So now it's more organized, and that's where you bring in people that have done t-shirts and retail and merchandise, and they come in and they run their mouths and like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Run, go, make money, don't steal.
Make money, don't steal. What's been each of your favorite thing about this experience and that you've started?
For me, everybody says don't go into business with your friend, and Cat Daddy's still my friend. He was my friend before that. We're still friends. I'm proud of that. I think that we've worked well together from the beginning. It's been really fun to be able to share all of this with somebody. It's just kind of, when we have a bad day or a great day, it's great to be able to share it with somebody that we can talk about it. And also just our people. We have great employees that have, a lot of them have become friends. And it's nice to be able to, people have started families and bought houses and have stayed with the company, and that kind of stuff really, I get off of that. I think that's just awesome that people have been able to make donuts and be able to buy a house or whatever, and now that's as we're growing, and now we have 300 people and et cetera, et cetera. It's getting harder. I don't know everybody because I don't live in Austin or Denver, but I keep up on stuff, and it's gratifying that people now, Denver's been open for 5 years, and we've got the same people that started on day one still working there in some cases. That's great. I like that, and I think that's, for me, that's rewarding. It's not just, and it's great to be able to just with donuts, and we give donuts to charities and giving things, and I don't know, all of that still just blows me away. That fried dough can lead to all of that.
I'm still blown away just of the enormity of all that this little, we talk about all the stuff we did as a kid. Those kids grew up to someone who comes up to me and is like, were you really on Wheel of Fortune? Did you really do that? Or you're on a plane 1,000 miles away from here, and somebody's like, yeah, I went to this weird donut shop in Portland, Oregon, of all places. And just knowing that you made a little touch on the world like that certainly strokes my big fat head.
Yeah.
That happened, but it inflates my head and humbles me at the same time that these two guys who goofed around and put bacon on a maple bar are now part of the lexicon of pop culture. We've changed the bacon. Yeah,
we need a Jeopardy answer.
We've changed the donut industry. We've been credited for that for just up until us. You walked into any donut shop in America, and it was the same. I mean, a Dunkin' was a Dunkin', a Krispy Kreme was a Krispy Kreme, and a mom and pop was a mom and pop.
Mm-hmm.
But there were no kooky donut shops. There were no gourmet donut shops or people charging $10 for donuts before us. And so the fact that that's part of our story is just, it's so cool. And it's that thing that's like, you can do it. We put our nose to the grindstone. We believed in ourselves. We pushed hard. We ignored so many people. It's like, that's the dumbest idea in the world. It'll never work. But we ignored that. And yeah, I bet you there's some ideas out there that are the dumbest ideas in the world that have never worked. But we studied it. We knew that where our location was. He'd been on that block and now still on this block for over 20 years. I've been working downtown here and working on that block for years before then. So we knew that that spot was magical. We knew that it would work there. And then now, I guess I can literally say millions of people from across the planet have descended on 3rd and Burnside to come try a bacon maple bar.
That's crazy.
That just still blows me away.
I think it's incredible what you guys have built. Do you guys have a favorite donut?
I still like the buttermilk bar. I really liked, it was just a limited time offer, but that golden graham one that had fluff in it.
I remember that one.
More than that one was delicious. It was just that it was a charity donut. We only made it for a couple of months.
That one
might come back.
I'm like, that one needs to come back. I can taste that one. I tried that one. That was good.
Pushing for more fluff. We don't have enough fluff. I'm still an old-fashioned man. I had an apple one in a box here. They brought some samples in, and I had an old-fashioned today.
I ate 3 donuts the other day. Tuesday I had 3. I mean, I still eat about a donut a week. I mean, it used to be a donut a day because when we were making the donuts, anything coming off out of the fryer and onto the glazing table, it was like, yeah, and try that. But you know, I've had a lot of donuts now.
I'm sure I was curious if you even liked donuts. I was half expecting like, no, I actually hate donuts.
It is unsold a lot, but it's kind of like tasting wine now. If we do go into the shops, I'll take a bite of a donut and kind of see, make sure it's done right and the consistency, how it tastes and that. But I might not eat the whole thing, and you kind of see me sort of throwing it into the garbage can, and I feel bad about that, but I just can't. But I still I'll whiff down a hot glazed donut or a buttermilk bar or something.
I will. If I'm walking through the shop, I'll deliberately look at the glazing table and see if there's something.
See if one's calling.
One of our huge laments is because the machine is running at such a speed, really hard to do fresh donuts.
Right.
If I serve you fresh donuts, what about the 4 trays of the other donuts that are there?
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird dilemma that we're still arguing about, and even talking about maybe doing something like, having some warmers up front, and not all the donuts, but what if we had just some glazed donuts always and a little warmer? Stuff like that is stuff we're always kind of thinking about. But because you could fry a shoe, and if you ran it under the glazing table, it would be the best thing you ever ate in your life. So if we could somehow get those up to the forefront without screwing up the inventory line, that would be something.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I have one final question for you. For anybody that's listening and that might be thinking about a dumb idea that might just work, or already is full on in their own business and trying to take it to the next level. You talked about so many great points today about just doing it despite what other people are telling you, about creativity and scaling. But what's one last piece of advice that you each would want to leave somebody with?
No one will ever work harder than you.
That's a good one.
You have to work that much harder. And yeah, they're working hard, but no one is feeling that dream. When you have that epiphany and that drive to be an entrepreneur, the person you hire is going to be gung-ho, but not as gung-ho as you.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you give them a piece of that pie, why are they going to work that much harder? So
it can't be about the money. It has to be about the dream. Obviously the money is what's going to keep it going, but you just can't get into something like that and just think, I'm going to make a bunch of money. You just need, as Kathleen just said, it's just the dream and the drive, and just, hopefully the magic will happen. The mojo will kaboom, and there you go.
And then 15 years later, and several cracked vertebrae and worn out shoulders and carpal tunnel and trigger fingers later,
great, you'll love it.
You can hopefully have somebody else doing the hard work for you and have time to do interviews like this rather than breaking your back doing physical.
Well, thank you both so much for your time today, and I hope that too for all of our listeners, that one day they can use somebody else's body to get the done.
In my being a kid, that to grow up to this level of something, it's out there and it can be done. So
I never at one point put I'll be a donut maker anywhere on my list of what I'm going to be when I grow up. I think that, and I never put the president of the United States in.
I think it's amazing what you guys have done, and thank you. Like you said, you're giving out smiles every day, and so thank you for making us all smile.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, what did you think? Are you craving like 24 boxes of Voodoo Donuts? I know that I am. No, just me? No? Yeah, no? Okay. You have to try them. If you haven't tried them, schedule a flight to Portland, go there for a weekend, do some of the other stuff. There's some other cool places, but really just plan your trip like around. There's some really great hotels really close to Voodoo Donuts. That's all you need to go see. Go by the water, eat some donuts, go back, eat more. That's all you need to see. That is Portland. It's awesome. But that's clearly my opinion. But I would love to hear what your takeaways were in the comments below. I know one of the things that immediately grabbed me, and it was right in the beginning, was their use of self-promotion. Any opportunity that they had to tell people what they were doing and to invite them to come see, they took advantage of. And so often, whether it's a hobby, a passion, a full-on business, we don't promote ourselves often enough. And with that said, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and also make sure you hit the notifications so that way you can watch other episodes coming up. But with that being said, I would love to hear in the comments below what your takeaways were. Again, there were so many, from just doing the math of barbecue over donuts. Could you imagine if it was Voodoo Barbecue? I bet it would have been delicious, but would it have turned into the lexicon that is Voodoo Donuts today? I don't think so. I really don't think so. So I'm grateful that they did the math and that the math worked out well for all of us. But again, you can go over to playwithfirepodcast.com, grab all the show notes there. You can also click the links below and be sure to follow Voodoo Donut and see what they're doing, because they come up with some really fun new creations seasonally. Sometimes it's for different causes, other times it's different themes, but they all look delicious. And again, you got to try them. And if you're going to be in Portland, be sure to hit me up on social media, because if I'm going to be in there too, we need to meet for a donut and have a conversation. So I would love that. And you have to try maple bacon. That's a must. I like the Voodoo Doll, which is a jelly filled. It has a pretzel in it. I think it's just 'cause it's a little violent. It just, it's just how you feel after waiting 4 hours. Okay, it wasn't 4 hours. It was an hour and a half in the cold. After waiting 4 hours in line for a donut, it still would have been worth 4 hours. It was an hour and a half, uphill in the snow, both ways. All right, I'm rambling, but thank you so much for watching. Post your comments in the notes below, and I can't wait to see you next time. Have a great day.